I scaled my online business to 25 million. And whether you are just getting started or you are upgrading your business online, this is going to be for you. Now, the primary way I scaled it was through a weekly webinar that I later automated. So if you are doing webinars or masterclasses to promote your offers, you definitely want to watch this. If you're not using those, I'm going to talk about the underlying things that worked. So regardless of whether you are promoting your offers here on YouTube or on other social media platforms, you will get a lot out of this. I'm going to be sharing the 8 C's I followed to be able to make majority of this over just 5 years. So I was able to collapse time. And then I'm going to share the 5 C's that people get wrong that I didn't fall into the trap of. So Big Money Wednesdays. This is what I called every Wednesday in my household because I was hosting a live webinar. And I did this for 2 years. So I hosted my live webinar every Wednesday. So over 100 times. And during these webinars, I sold offers that first started at $1,000, and then it was $2,000, and then $2,500. And then after I crossed $10 million, I introduced an advanced offer, which was a high ticket offer, and that was $18,000. On that launch webinar, I generated over $1 million. So it was $1.3 million. I had over 90 people take me up on the $18,000 offer. Over 90% of them paid in full. So in this video, I'm going to get into the 8 C's on what I did right so that you can do it too. Whether you're starting from 1 or 100 or 100,000 or a million, this is going to be valuable for you. So the first thing I did right was commitment. I committed to a weekly webinar. I heard someone say that when you do a webinar every week for a year, you will make $1 million. I took that as my new reality, okay? So I believed that when I committed to this action, I called it a wealth habit, WELLTH. It's a wealth habit because it is something that creates wealth in service of my well-being. I just so happened to enjoy webinars because I'm an introvert, and it meant that I could open up my laptop from my living room or from wherever I was. One Wednesday, I was in my dad's living room for the day before Thanksgiving. So I opened up my laptop in Santa Clarita, California, and I did my webinar. But I was committed. I was devoted to this practice. So what I want you to know is that there is a practice that has been nudging at you. It is asking you to commit to it, whether it's a daily practice. So this year I'm posting on social media every day, and I know my life is going to be completely different a year from now, or it's a weekly practice like with my webinars. But I want you to be committed to this and ask yourself, what is a wealth habit that I can take on? When I did this weekly webinar, I followed my current rules, which is do it ugly, do it often, do it better. So in the beginning, I kind of knew what I was doing, but it wasn't perfect. So I did it anyway. And then I tracked my progress. So whatever action, whatever wealth habit you're committing to, are you tracking your progress? So here's what that looked like. I would do my webinar on a Wednesday, and then I would put in my spreadsheet how many people registered, how many attended, how many paid in full, and how many did my payment plan. And then I would send follow-up emails and do retargeting, and I would track how many people bought post-webinar. So every week I had a tracker. Now at the time, the question is like, how were you getting new people on this webinar? Because I was just starting to build my audience online. My email list was tiny. My social media following and brand were tiny. So I relied on paid ads because I wanted to grow fast. And I had some experience running ads in one of my full-time jobs. So what I would do is I would also track how much did I spend on ads this week. So for instance, when I was just getting started, my very first one, I spent $1,400 on ads and I made $4,200. So that was about a $3,000 profit. So I reinvested a portion of that $3,000 profit into ads for the next week. And I would track that in my tracker. And so that's how I was able to go from 1 month where I made $10,000 because I did 4 webinars. So I made $2,500 on average for each webinar. And I would just reinvest some of my profits into ads to grow it. So I went from 10K 1 month to 30K another month, to 40K another month, to $130,000 in February, which happens to be my birthday month. Now, the 130K per month became my new floor. Like, we went up from there. The highest month I had was $980,000 from that same offer. It was a $2,000 offer. And then my biggest month later was 1.3 million. Now, the reason this worked is because I was tracking everything and I was improving as I went. And how I made that jump from the 40K month to the $130,000 month is because I knew my metrics. So I knew that if I invest $10,000, I'll make $50,000. So at that time, I made 40K one month. So I said, let me just 5X my ad spend. I 5X'd my ad spend and I got like high 5-figure results. And so I said, what if I 5X my ad spend again? So that's how I went from 40K one month to my first 6-figure month. So whatever you're committing to, make sure you're tracking, because then you can double down on whatever you're doing. Even with organic content, if you're posting on TikTok, YouTube, whatever it is, if you track your metrics and you see what's working, then you can just double down on it. And if you want to get more advanced, then you can put a little bit of your profits into paid ad spend to amplify the organic content that's working. The second C that I did well was creation. I believed that I could create anything with my word. Okay, we are in that season right now. I feel it in the air. I don't know if you feel it, but this is the time of creation. So I want you to imagine if you could create anything with your word, what would happen if you kept your word to yourself? What are the crazy things that might be beyond your imagination right now that would be possible? So I believed I could create anything with my word, and my word was my bond, all right? When they say speak it into existence, that's what I was doing. Now, the third C was culture ad. So we grow up being taught culture fit. When I was working my full-time job, we would interview candidates and we would ask, is this person a culture fit? Do they fit into our culture? And what I quickly learned is that in this economy, it's not the winning formula anymore to be a culture fit. The winning formula is to be a culture ad, to leverage your cultural advantage. So I leaned into my unique identity. The fact that I was a Black woman, a millennial, an eldest daughter, a first generation, both of my parents are not from the States. My mom is from Panama, my dad is from Jamaica. I leaned into all those things. The fact that I went to UC Berkeley for college, I worked in Silicon Valley, so I was early to online education. I leaned into that. And what that enhanced was my storytelling. So when you are thinking about your message in your webinar, in your content, in your offer that you're selling, I want you to lean into those unique identifiers. The more I showed my face and the more I told my story and showed up as I was and leaned on my receipts, the more I attracted my tribe. The more specific you can get, the better. So think about all the things of your identity that you can infuse. And then what I did is when I was on my webinar or when I was creating content, I let my audience know that their winning formula is to lean into their culture ad. So on my webinar, the very first thing I would share is you probably think you don't know what to teach. You probably think you need to be a quote unquote expert, certified expert to create a 2K, 5K, 10K offer. Well, I'm here to tell you that you have everything you need. All you need to lean into is your cultural advantage. And I'm gonna show you real life examples of people who leaned into the fact that they were co-parenting, that they helped women over 50 with pre-diabetic symptoms reverse them, that they had fibroids and reverse them. I'm gonna show you how people leaned into the identity, being a Black queer woman and developing apps without code. I'm gonna show you how to use your cultural advantage. So when you are doing your coaching to your clients, whether it's in your content, in your videos here, on your webinar, I want you to also encourage people through whatever your culture ad is and encourage them to show up as themselves too. That helps them know that they can believe in themselves and not be a replica copy of you, but be themselves and get results just like you. The third C I did right was congruence. So congruence just means I had a through line through all of my marketing content. So I was sharing my story arc. All right. So the fact that I grew up here, I had these experiences, I had these wins, I had these losses, and then I had these wins. I shared that congruence through everything. So for instance, when I was promoting my first webinar, it was, how I made $25,000 in a month from Instagram. And with that, everything was congruent. So the ads I was running said that same thing. How I made 25K in 1 month. And it was a photo of me in a bikini on vacation talking about how I made 40K that week in the Bahamas, right? And then when they got the emails that were leading up to the webinar, they retold that story and they said, this is what you can look forward to hearing more about on the webinar. I'm gonna show you how, the 3 steps on how I did this. And then on the webinar, I retold that story. And then after the webinar, I sent follow-up emails, right? So everything was congruent. So think about that one message, that one result you've gotten, the one story you want to tell over and over again, it's going to feel redundant to you. But the thing is, we are new to learning about you and we need to hear it over and over again. And that's how you become known for something. Years after I was running those ads and doing my webinars, I went to a very big business leader's book launch. And at the book launch, someone recognized me and she said, "Are you the girl in the green bikini?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "You made a lot of money on Instagram, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "You're like the Instagram baddie, like the influencer." And I was like, I had never thought of myself as an Instagram influencer, but I guess it's because that was in my messaging, right? So that's the power of very specific messaging. After that, I shifted to, after I made 7 figures and then 8 figures, I had an article written up about me in Forbes, and they called me the millionaire maker. So then I used that as part of my messaging, and people began knowing me as the millionaire maker. So I got on podcasts talking about it, right? It led to other features. So think about, what is that ideal headline that you want to have published about you? And that is something that you can keep repeating and have that congruence through all of your messaging. The 5th C is the collective. When we are creating our marketing content, our online business offers, our webinar, we want to remember the collective, what is going on at a macro level in our world. This will help you connect deeper, not only with yourself and your message and why you are important at this specific time in history, but it also helps the people on your webinar and watching your content connect with you. So there were 4 shifts that I shared at the beginning of my webinar to show people I have an understanding and I'm tapped into what's going on here. So the first shift I talked about was, we are shifting from the industrial economy, where we were rewarded for our time, where we would go to work and clock in 9 to 5. We're shifting from the industrial economy to the identity economy. And I got this term from Esther Perel. And in the identity economy, we are rewarded for our story. So as a creator on this platform, whether you're consuming and or creating, you are getting rewarded for your story. How unique is it? How much are you leaning into your culture ad? That is feeding into the law of supply and demand. So in college, the course that I failed and then took like a 3rd time and got a C- in was stats. And in stats, I learned the law of supply and demand. It was about the only thing I learned. But as you know, the law of supply and demand says that the less supply of something, the higher the demand for it. So when you think about yourself and your story, when you tell your story properly and you share the Venn diagram of all the things that make you you, there is only one of you. So the supply is limited. Like, you are truly that one-of-a-kind diamond. And that means the demand for you goes way up. You are the only person of this age, this background, born at this time, evolving in this economy, going through this health journey, all these things. You're the only person, and so the demand for you goes up. And what this means is you can have premium price points. You can say, this is the only place that you can get this information. I am the source of this information. So people are going to say, I want to work with you. Oh, it's $500, great. It's $1,000, great. It's $2,000 to get a couple hours with you. It's $10,000 for an in-person. I'm there. That is what I shared as a macro shift. Now, the second macro shift I shared, and remember, these are beliefs that you can think about what's true for you that you can share in your content. The second one I shared was that we're shifting from wealth, W-E-A-L-T-H, as we know it, the accumulation of money, to wealth, W-E-L-L-T-H, which is regenerative. Okay, so wealth, the accumulation of money, that is when we are in the Newtonian age, where things are linear, where you need to go step 1, step 2, step 3, you add them up and you get to whatever that next step is. And you are accumulating money, and it is the currency. The main currency is money. And we are now shifting into the quantum age. So from the Newtonian age to the quantum age. The quantum age means infinite possibilities. All possibilities exist at one time. And the currency of the quantum age is energy and well-being. And so that's how I came up with wealth, W-E-L-L-T-H, because I said, we need to stop burning ourselves out by any means necessary to make this money and just to hoard it for ourselves. We need to prioritize our well-being and create wealth from that place and redistribute the wealth. Whether it's through our knowledge sharing or it's through our financial resources, we get to redistribute it and recirculate it to make our communities better. And so with that, I got into my personal story and I shared how it was my spiritual advisor that shared this concept with me of the Newtonian age to the quantum age, and how I really lived this in real life when I had a breast tumor that was benign that I had on my left breast. And it grew so rapidly because I was holding on to shame, and I had a mastectomy. And so I lost my left breast. And that's when I really gained this new perspective that we need to prioritize our well-being. So again, with these beliefs, you're setting the stage, right? You're inviting people in to say, wait a minute, my heart connects with her heart. Like, we're on the same frequency. I'm listening, I'm leaning in. The third thing I shared was that IP is the new American dream. IP stands for intellectual property. So I grew up in a time where physical property, physical property, real estate was the American dream. It was all about grow up, go to college, get a good job, get married, and buy a house. That was the American dream. And what I shared with them is that is crumbling. And the new American dream is our IP, our intellectual property, our story, our culture ad, the knowledge we're sharing. That gives us infinite returns. And I told a story of how when I had $1 million in cash in my account, I asked my business manager, what should I do with this? Like, what? And I said, shouldn't I buy some property? I should buy some real estate, right? He said, real estate is not how you got here. Your intellectual property is how you got here. Oprah owns hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate, but it's because of the tax benefits. It's because she made so much money from her intellectual property, her storytelling, her shows, her studio, her other shows, her channel. She made so much from her intellectual property that she needed to buy physical property for tax benefits. But really, the new American dream is your IP. And we are no longer limited by geography, right? Tell me in the comments what country you're in or what state you're in the States, if you're in the States. We're crossing borders with our content, right? So that was the third thing I shared. And what I did is I tied that back to, you are on this masterclass, you are consuming my content, you are interested in my offers because I'm gonna show you how to monetize your story, how to get paid for your intellectual property. And the fourth thing I shared was that AI is not artificial intelligence in my world. AI is aligned intention, right? So when we think of AI, it's really a set of tools. And the tools don't have a brain for themselves. Well, some of them probably do, but you know what I mean. They are tools that we get to use. And the AI is our aligned intention. So how, when you are querying ChatGPT, are you putting in prompts that are in alignment with your next season? They're in alignment with whatever results you want to create. And on this particular webinar and in my content, I was sharing with them how I was using AI to help me tell my story, to help me create marketing materials in record time. But I was able to leverage it because I had intention, and it was aligned intention. And the best way to collapse time is to be in alignment and to act in accordance, to have your intentions be in accordance. So think about something that is in your field, in your industry, that you can redefine and have people on your class or in your content have that mind blown moment and be like, oh, I never thought about it that way. So the 6C that I did really well was community. I cultivated community not only through my content creation, my marketing, my offers, but when I was on the webinar, I called people out. I said, you might be a first. Let me know in the comments if you are first generation. So if you were the first to be born in the country you're born in, if your parents were immigrants from another country, let me know if you were a firstborn, eldest child. Let me know if you're the first in your family to be an entrepreneur and building your own business. Let me know if you are the first in your family to go to college, right? So I help them self-identify as firsts, right? As first generation. And then I also said, you might also be an overachiever. So let me know if you were the one who was working really hard in school to get all the good grades, and now you're working hard in your business, trying to grow this thing and glow up. And then I said you might also be an early adopter. Chances are, if you are learning about online education and monetizing your personal brand, building your personal brand, you are still early. You are an early adopter. And this reassured them that they were in the right place. And it cultivated a sense of community on the webinar, but also with my content, through my emails, through my ads. It was a way to cultivate community. So ask yourself, what identities can you say over and over again to attract your MVPs, your most valuable payers, and build a community through that that you can carry through to your offer. The seventh C I did really well was a close. So you can do this whether you are selling through your content like a YouTube video, or you're on a webinar or a masterclass, or you're doing it through phone calls. But I had a fireworks moment, okay? So in my offer, I always had a pay in full incentive. So this is how I was able to have 80% of people pay in full for my offers. And this went from when I was selling something for $2,000 all the way up to $18,000. I had 90% of people pay in full. Now, let me walk you through this close that I did. Now, I created a bonus that was irresistible. The first part of it was, I said, when you pay in full, the full $18,000 today, when you pay in full the $18,000, you are going to enter at the platinum level in our program. And at the platinum level, you get access to my private boardroom for 4 weeks. So every Monday, I'm going to get on with you at 8 a.m. and I'm going to walk you through my metrics in the business. I will show you how much we spent on my team, on my marketing, ads, and software. And then I'm going to show you how much we made. So you'll actually be able to see our real profits. And I'll show you what's working and what's not working. And then there will be time for you to be in the hot seat. And you're going to be held accountable to what your goals are and show us progress. So this was a private boardroom, and I anchored it in another identity. I said the boardrooms are changing. When we grew up, the boardrooms looked a certain way. They consisted mostly of men, and probably mostly of white men. And they didn't look like us. And so we get to create our new boardroom, and I want to bring you in. The second part of the offer was hand-picked accountability groups. So when you join and you pay in full, we are going to have you submit information about where you are in your business, what kind of niche you're in, where you're located, and we are going to hand pair you. We're going to pick you and put you into a group with people in your same time zone who are on the same level as you. And you're going to be in an accountability group, and you're going to get to meet with these people once a week so you can check in on your progress and your metrics and hold each other accountable. We're also going to give you a framework and an agenda that you can follow every week. So accountability is huge, right? I talked about this in my previous video on webinars, where you want to offer ABCs: accountability, blueprint, and community and coaching. So this is the accountability piece that they were getting when they paid in full. And then the third part of the pay in full incentive was they were going to get my $900,000 month breakdown. So it was a breakdown on the month that I made $900K from one offer. And I gave them the emails, the ads, the offers, everything I did to generate that $900K. So I put this offer together for people who wanted to collapse time, people who wanted to move quickly, and people who knew that when you pay money, you pay attention. And I know that when I invest this upfront, it's going to save me years. And therefore, it's actually going to save me money in the long run. So I want you to think about, how can you create a fireworks moment that closes people? Again, whether it's through your YouTube content, your social media content, your offer, your webinar, but think about how you can really close them. And the eighth C that I did really well was continuity. So I thought about the whole journey that someone would go on through my world, right? I was creating a world. You've got to create a world, right? And so what the continuity looked like is that once they saw my ad, they would start getting emails that were priming them for the webinar. It was sharing little gems from my story and showing them what to look forward to on the webinar. This helped to get the highest show up rate possible for the webinar. And then once they were on the webinar, I continued with that continuity. And I didn't just stop there. So when you do, whether it's a YouTube video, whatever your wealth habit is going to be, if it's social media content, it's phone calls, whatever it is, sometimes we can get disenchanted and demoralized when we don't think it's going well. And we can stop there. You got to keep going. Continue, continuity. So after the webinar, I followed up with emails for the people who didn't buy yet, and I let them know the deadline is coming. And then I did retargeting ads. So for you, if you're doing organic or unpaid content, how can you continue showing up to those people who might have seen you before? And then I invited people to a phone call. This was a closing call or a clarity call where I would get on one-on-one with them for 30 minutes, or I hired a couple people to do it on my behalf. And this is where you had time to just answer those lingering questions that people had. So continuity means, it's not just a one-night show, okay? But you are there for the whole time throughout their journey to make sure you don't leave anyone behind. So those are the 8 C's that I did really well. And now I want to share the 5 C's that I think people get wrong. So the first C that people get wrong is copying. You find a template for your content that you're creating, for your YouTube videos, for your webinars, whatever it is, and you copy it. And you abandon yourself and what makes you unique. Now, I ran into someone, I used to be in a mastermind, and there was this really popular business leader who was in the mastermind with me, and he confided in the group that he was cutting off his main offer that had made him millions of dollars. And when we asked why, he said, it's because they're all copying me. Like, they're all just taking my course, they're copying it verbatim, and they're reselling it. And I knew that the reason that was happening is because copying was a part of his culture. He actually taught people to copy others. That was a part of his ideology. So I knew that what I was doing was right in encouraging others to be their fully expressed selves, to tap into their cultural advantage. And I was creating one of ones, right? And so when you are setting out on this journey, make sure you're not just copying who appears to be successful and doing well. You never know what's going on in the back end. As long as you stay true to yourself, you will continue seeing returns on that. Just sprinkle in a little strategy and the 8 C's we just covered, and you'll be good to go. The second C people get wrong is confusion. You are talking to different customers, you have different offers, you are sharing different messages. There's gotta be a through line, right? There's gotta be that story arc that you're grounding people in. It's gotta be your one most valuable payer that you are speaking to over and over again. And that's gonna inform your headlines, your video topics, the journey you take us on. But I want you to really make sure that you're not confused, because you're gonna give that confusion out in the market. The third C is complexity. So this is when you have that expert curse and you know your stuff, but you forget that we don't know your stuff. And what you want to do is simplify your message. My whole thing is meet your customers where they are and take them higher. So how can you simplify your message and speak to the misconceptions that your customers have right now in the language that they're using? And so you can do all kinds of searches on this. You can look on Amazon and see what top selling books in your niche, what language are they using. You can see what language is in the reviews of those books. You can look at YouTube videos and see what are people typing in the descriptions. And you can also just think about what are comments that your own audience are giving. What questions are they asking? You can even survey your audience and ask them, what are the top questions you have? Where are you right now in your life, and where do you want to be? Another way to cut through complexity is to ground the topics you share in story. So when you're ever in doubt, storyboard it out. Okay, just share your story with us that's related to a concept, which might at first be a complex, multi-dimensional, multifaceted concept. But if you open up with a personal story or a client story, that helps walk us through, and then you can teach to that. There's a framework I teach inside of my Course from Scratch program. And you can get the Course from Scratch bundle, by the way, if you want help, more detailed help creating your offer and launching it. But it's the CAR framework. And the C is for concept and case study. So you're going to teach us a concept, but you're going to do it through sharing a case study. The A is for action step. Once we understand the concept, give us a quick action step so we can get a quick win. Tell us to set our timer for 2 minutes and take this action. And then the R is for results. Now, what is that measurable result and milestone that we got because we followed your framework? The fourth C that people get wrong is they are conflicted. They abort the mission too soon. So if you've ever been creating content and been consistent, and then for some reason, life hits you over the head, you're not seeing the numbers you want to see, and you leave too soon, I don't want you to be conflicted. I want you to be convicted. All right? I want you to know that you can create anything with your word as long as you stay true and you are devoted. Okay? I love in this season devotion over discipline. Devotion just hits different. You feel me in this season. So stay convicted and devoted and commit. Say, I'm going to do this thing every day for 30 days, or I'm going to do this thing every week for a year. But stay through that to the end. And remember to do it ugly, do it often, and do it better. And the fifth C that people get wrong is they are comicless. Now, when I say comicless, it means that you're taking things too seriously. I have done this for most of my life, by the way, okay? I am a recovering comicless person. Now, the reason I say comicless is because I find a lot of my inspiration from comedians. When you think about comedians, they need material for their stand-up. To do a stand-up routine, you need to live life. You need to experience the lows, and then you need to kind of make light of it. You need to find the lesson in it and make light of the lesson. So when you are being consistent, staying devoted, being convicted, keeping your word to yourself, I want you to be able to find the comedy in it and know that you will get to come on here on YouTube, whatever social media platform, whatever webinar in your offer, you will get to come and tell your war stories. And the more you make light of it, the more your audience is gonna lean in and they're gonna say, okay, I can rock with this person because they are human. They're not a robot, all right? So I want you to see if you can find the humor in things. And when you're creating your content, know that it is valuable. Like, one trick is you either romanticize your life or you make fun of it. If you're ever like, I don't have anything to create content on, I don't live an interesting life, baby, as long as you can find a joke, okay? I talk to the spiders and the insects around here all the time, the geckos, and I have a little National Geographic series that I do on my Instagram stories. I make light of it, and people love my little Nat Geo series. And it's because I am romanticizing and making fun of my life at the same time. So how can you do that so you can be more human and really connect to your audience? I would love to hear your top takeaways from the video. What was your favorite C? What notes did you take? What are you committed to doing in this season? What are some of the things I said that people get wrong that you might have been doing and you're like, oh, caught myself? And what are you planning in the next 12 months? What devotional activity are you committed to doing every week, every day, every month? And how long are you committed to doing it? And if you need my support, I've got my Course from Scratch bundle. If you are looking to turn your story into a digital product or a premium offer, you can get my Course from Scratch bundle. And when you do, it comes with our free AI tools. You can also get my webinar from Scratch offer as part of the Course from Scratch bundle. So I'll link to that below. And if you ever want to work one-on-one with me, I have VIP sessions and VIP weekends available here in Bali. So make sure to check that out as well. And I can't wait to read your takeaways and see what you have planned. All right, I'll see you in the next video.